Okay, let's talk about display functionality. I've got the laptop here and I have a secondary monitor connected to this guy. Now, when it comes to laptops, the display functionality is changed from your function keys and from Windows or from the operating system you're using. So, for example, as we mentioned in a previous sub lesson, you can change the brightness of your laptop screen by using the function key. And in this laptop, it's F2 or F3 to decrease or increase that brightness. Now, if you have a secondary monitor, that's going to be on the on screen display with the controls here. But otherwise, these work the same way as your desktop counterparts, and you modify how the screen looks in the same places. Now, I'll give an example of this and we'll show the secondary monitor as well. And I connected the secondary monitor from the laptop from the HDMI port. That's a full size HDMI, so it's just using a regular HDMI cable out to that monitor. This is running Windows 8, and it picked up the monitor automatically, but you may have to configure this. And so to do so, you'd use the monitor toggle key, this guy here. And on many laptops, that's F4. So we press the function key and press F4, and you have different options here. You could use the laptop screen only, and we could tap on that with the mouse, or we could just arrow over to it if we wanted to. And when we do so, you only get the display on here. And now it's showing the browser window that was open on this screen. And so everything's going to get condensed onto just the laptop, and the monitor will go into sleep mode. And you can see that sleep mode because you see the amber light here. Amber means sleeping. Green means on. And by the way, if I haven't mentioned this before, great website, grc.com. The SpinRite program as a PC tech, you should have that. Get that program. Shields Up is also awesome. So that's just a side note. But if we want to get the screen back, we'll press function key and F4 again. We have additional options. Now, you could just use the laptop screen, or you could just use the second screen if you wanted to, and save this screen altogether. And you could also configure it so the laptop could be closed, but you could still work with it with an external mouse and keyboard. And now if we press the function key in F4, those options show up on the secondary screen. You have another option. You can duplicate the screen, have the same thing on both displays. So that's a nice feature as well if you're doing presentations or what have you, and you're exporting the video signal out to a secondary monitor, a big TV or a projector. You may want to do that so you can do your PowerPoint presentations or whatever, and it'll show up on that secondary screen. And the one that I use the most often is Extend. The Extend feature allows you to extend the desktop across the laptop and to the secondary screen. So that's the one I want. And that's what you'll see quite often. This way, someone can work on one window on one screen, perhaps a browser window, and then have another window open here, like Microsoft Word documents, or here you can see I have File Explorer open, which, by the way, shows I'm showing hidden files and folders like Boot Manager and Hybrfill.sys and Pagefile.sys. So that's something you want to check. If someone's trying to do a presentation or someone's trying to watch something on a secondary monitor, you got to check that monitor toggle key. And again, you got to press the function key and F4 at the same time, because if you press just the F4 key or whatever key it might be, you'll get the drop down menu for the particular window that you're in, which is a nice feature, by the way, but that's not what we want. So we press function and F4 and we get those options here. And you can get to this from the Charms bar and from a couple different other places in Windows 8. So that's up to you how you get to it. On a laptop, for me, it's just so easy to use a shortcut like function and F4. Now, once you get this all set up, and oh, by the way, Windows 8 remembers your configurations. So if you were to disconnect this monitor and then later reconnect it, it will remember how that monitor was connected. It will remember that it was connected in extend mode or whatever mode you had it in. It'll remember that, which is nice. It's almost like a hardware profile. Windows 8 will remember that for you. Once you have it all set up and you are displaying to the other screen, you're going to want to make sure that the resolutions are correct on both. I just pressed Windows D to minimize all windows. And what we want to go to is the screen resolution window. So we'll right click anywhere on the desktop and select screen resolution. So we can see here we have the two windows. It's showing each monitor that's connected. You might have more monitors if you're working with a PC, but on a laptop, generally you just have one output. It's usually HDMI, or if you have a MacBook, it'll be that display port that uses Thunderbolt. You might also see DVI on older laptops as the external connection, but HDMI will be the standard. And you can see whatever screens are connected. So the primary screen, number one, is normally the laptop, though you can change that. And you can see it says here mobile PC display, and the resolution is 1920 by 1080. So that's 1080p. That is high definition. It's meant for watching video and what have you. Now, if we tap on the second screen, you'll see it shows it's an Asus VS247. And I got that specifically because it's meant to be used as an HDMI device, and it works great for watching video. And so that's also 1920 by 1080. And that's the recommended resolutions for both, but we can change those. We can reduce that if we want. Let's say if we watch a lot of YouTube videos that run at 720p, we could change that, and you could see that it changes the size of that monitor on the screen. So it gives you an idea of what the difference will be between the resolutions. Maybe your laptop screen isn't that big. Maybe it's only 13, 14 inches, and you want to have that at a lower resolution so the icons show up bigger. And you can do that. We could change this guy to 1280 by 720 and maybe have the secondary screen set to the maximum recommended. Then we apply that, and everything on this screen will actually show up bigger. We can keep those changes. It won't be as clear on this screen, but you might want to watch videos at 720p on here and then have a lot more clear information here. Generally, I keep the laptop at 1920 by 1080 also. Now that 1920 by 1080, that is a 16 by 9 aspect ratio, 16:9 aspect ratio. You might also see 16:10 aspect ratios on some laptops, and that's 1920 by 1200. That's more common on a desktop PC, especially if you're going to do editing. But if you're dealing with multimedia laptops, quite often 1920 by 1080 or 1080p is the standard. And you can also change how the secondary monitors work from here, just like we did from that side option before. That's another place to do that. So you can really get into how these are set up. You can also modify which goes where. Let's say you wanted to have, this monitor on the left of the laptop. Well, we could just drag that physically over here. And then that would situate it that way. So when you move the mouse, it would cross over from this desktop to the other one over here. So that's however you will like it. You can adjust those however you want. And this is known as a multiple monitor display at this point. Very common in because the laptop screens are just so small. You can change the resolution on the laptop screen. You can change the font size. You can change the DPI and all that. But still, if you have a 12 or a 13 or 14-inch screen, it's just that. It's a small screen. So that secondary monitor works really good. So there's a little bit about display functionality. Remember your function keys, your brightness option, and your monitor toggle option here. Remember both of those and know how to get to the screen resolution option as well. where you can change how the multiple displays work, change where they're oriented, and change the resolution.